Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something that a lot of people don't understand about men. See, we may walk around acting tough, acting like we got it all figured out, but deep down inside, every man is searching for something real, something that touches his soul. That's the truth. A man can meet 1,000 women and not feel a thing, and then one woman walks in and everything changes. Why? Because it's not about how she looks, it's about how she feels to him. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something straight from the heart. See, a lot of people think they know what makes a man fall in love. They assume it's about looks, the way a woman walks, the way she dresses, how pretty her face is, or how flawless her body might be. But I'm here to tell you that ain't it. That's not what keeps a man. A man might be attracted to the outside for a moment, but what makes him stay, what makes him fall, is something much deeper. A man falls in love when something about a woman touches his soul. That's real talk. You could be the most beautiful woman in the room, but if you don't touch his soul, you're just another face in the crowd. It's easy to find beauty. Beauty is everywhere. But soul connection, that's rare. That's the thing that makes a man stop in his tracks and think, wait a minute. This is different. It's not just how she looks, it's how she makes him feel. When she talks, he listens. When she smiles, he feels peace. When she looks at him, he feels seen, not judged, not pressured, but truly seen. There's a part of a man that stays hidden from most of the world. He shows his confidence, his strength, his control. But behind all of that is a quiet place he doesn't let just anyone into. That's the place where his dreams live, his fears, his regrets, his hopes. That's his soul. And when a woman finds a way to speak to that place, it shakes him. It moves him. Because most women don't even see it. They're looking at the outer version of him, the job he has, the car he drives, how much money he makes. But the one who gets into his heart is the one who sees past all that and reaches who he really is on the inside. A woman who touches a man's soul doesn't need to impress him. She's not chasing or performing. She's just being. She's real, she's honest, and she's present. She doesn't make him feel like he has to be more than he is. She makes him feel like who he is right now is enough. And that's powerful because so many men go through life feeling like they're never quite enough, never doing enough, never earning enough. But when he's around that kind of woman, the pressure fades. He feels safe. He feels understood. And that's when he starts to fall, not because of what she does, but because of what she brings out of him. He might not even be able to explain it. It's not something he can put into words. He just knows he wants to be around her. He finds himself thinking about her in the middle of the day. He wants to tell her about things he usually keeps to himself. He's not trying to impress her. He just wants to be seen by her. That's so deep. That's not about lust. That's about love. And the truth is, every man is searching for that, even if he doesn't admit it. Deep down, he's tired of pretending, tired of having to wear the mask, tired of only showing the strong side and hiding the rest. And when a woman comes along and reaches into that hidden place, not to control him or fix him, but to understand him, he feels it in his chest. That's when he knows it's more than attraction. That's when he realizes she's the one, not because she's perfect, but because she touched a place no one else ever did. You want to know how to capture a man's heart forever? Don't focus on just catching his eyes. Aim for his soul. Because once you touch that part of him, he won't just like you. He'll need you. Not in a desperate way, but in a meaningful way. You'll become the peace he didn't even know he was looking for. That's what makes him fall. That's what makes him stay. Ladies and gentlemen, let me break it down for you in a way that's real and raw. Everybody's out here talking about chemistry and looks and attraction like that's all there is to it. And yes, don't get me wrong, physical attraction might catch a man's attention, but it's emotional connection that keeps him. See, you can turn heads all day long, but if you don't touch a man's heart, it won't matter. You might be the most beautiful woman in the room, but if he can't connect with you emotionally, he won't stay. That's just how men are wired deep down. You want to know what gets a man thinking about you when you're not around? It's not the dress you wore or how perfect your makeup was. It's how you made him feel. It's what you said when he was low. It's how you looked at him when he talked about something personal. It's how you made space for his truth without laughing, without judging, just accepting. That's what builds a bond. And let me tell you, once a man gets emotionally bonded, it's hard for him to walk away from that because now you're not just someone he likes. You're someone he needs. A man can get physical attention anywhere. The world offers that up too easy nowadays. But emotional connection, that's rare. That's sacred. That's what separates you from the rest. The truth is, a man can go out with 10 different women and still feel empty. But one conversation with a woman who gets him, who sees him for more than his paycheck or his status or his past, that one moment can do more than any romantic dinner or grand gesture. That connection goes straight to the soul. And once he feels that, once he sees that you're not just here for fun, but you're here for something real, he starts falling without even trying. See, emotional connection doesn't come from having deep talks one night and then disappearing the next. It's built when you show up consistently, when your energy feels calm, when you don't always have to fill the silence with noise. It's built when he can be vulnerable without feeling weak. Most men are not used to that. They've been taught to bottle things up, to man up, to never let their guard down. So when he meets a woman who says, "You can breathe here," that's different. That's powerful. That creates a bond he didn't even know he was missing. Let me put it this way. A man can sleep with someone and still feel alone. But when he's emotionally connected, even a simple hug means everything. When he finds that one person who listens without interrupting, who supports without controlling, who inspires without criticizing, that woman becomes unforgettable. He starts to imagine a future, not because she asked him to, but because his heart led him there. That's the power of connection. It speaks louder than any physical attraction ever could. So many people get caught up in surface level stuff. How many likes on a picture? How many compliments about looks? But at the end of the day, that's not what keeps a man's heart. That fades. What lasts is how you make him feel when life gets heavy, when things aren't perfect, when he doesn't feel like the strongest man in the room. That's when emotional connection shows up. That's when he knows it's more than attraction. That's when he realizes he can't lose you. You want to make a man fall in love in a way he can't explain? Speak to the part of him that no one else sees. Be the peace in his chaos. Be the calm in his storm. Be the one who doesn't just look good standing next to him, but feels good standing with him in the highs and the lows. Because when a man feels that kind of emotional connection, he don't just fall, he falls hard, and he falls forever. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something real. You can be the most educated woman, the most beautiful, the most successful, but if you don't bring peace into a man's life, he won't stay. That's just the truth. See, men may not always say it out loud, but what they're searching for deep down is peace. Life already throws so much noise, so much pressure, so many expectations. Every time he walks out that door, he's got a battle to fight. He's got to be strong, got to provide, got to protect, got to figure out how to carry the weight of the world and still smile through it. So when he comes home, he doesn't want more stress. He's not looking for war behind the door. He's looking for peace. And when a woman gives him that, he sees her as home. It's not about being quiet. It's not about staying out of the way. It's about the energy she brings. Some women walk into a room and the whole space shifts, not because they're loud, but because their presence is calm. She doesn't try to control him. She doesn't tear him down. She knows when to speak, when to listen, when to simply be there. That's peace. That's comfort. And that's what every man wants, even if he doesn't know how to say it. See, the world already has a way of making a man feel like he's not enough. His boss wants more. Society wants more. People expect more. So the last thing he needs is to come home to someone who reminds him of his flaws. But when a woman looks at him, not for what he lacks, but for what he brings, he starts to breathe different. He feels safe, he feels accepted, and you can't put a price on that. Most men are walking around emotionally exhausted, spiritually drained, and the problem is so many of them don't even realize it. They think they're fine, they think they're tough, but they're tired of performing, tired of pretending, tired of fighting battles in silence. But when he finds that one woman who brings him peace instead of pressure, healing instead of hurt, understanding instead of arguments, he doesn't just like her, he needs her, because she becomes the one space where he doesn't have to prove anything, he can just be. And that right there, that's where love grows. Not in the drama, not in the chasing, but in the stillness, in the quiet moments where nothing needs to be said, but everything is felt. When a woman has that softness in her voice, that light in her spirit, that patience in her heart, he sees it. He may not say it right away. He may even test it. But trust me, he notices it. And once he realizes that your peace isn't temporary, that it's not fake, not based on conditions, not waiting to flip on him, he starts to lean in. That's when he starts to build with you. Because now you're not just a partner, you're his home. A man will never forget the woman who gave him peace. She could walk into his life at the lowest point, and if her energy brings him calm instead of chaos, he'll always remember how she made him feel. It's not the looks, not the words, not even the moments. It's the feeling, that feeling of being seen, being respected, being understood without judgment. That's powerful. You see, a man can find excitement anywhere, but peace is rare. And when he finds it in a woman, he holds on. He starts to think about his future. He starts making changes. Not because she told him to, but because being around her makes him want to grow. That's the kind of connection that doesn't fade. That's the kind of love that lasts. Because he's not chasing thrills anymore. He's found a place to rest. He's found home. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something that most people never stop to think about when it comes to men. A man can walk through this world his whole life and never truly feel seen. He can achieve success, build a business, take care of his family, show up strong every single day, and still feel invisible. That's because too often the world only sees what he does, not who he is. But deep down inside, a man has a silent desire, a craving to be more than just needed. He wants to be valued. He wants to be respected. He wants to be seen for the man he truly is, not just the one he presents to the world. So when a woman enters his life and looks beyond the surface, beyond the performance, beyond the paycheck and the image, when she sees the man underneath it all, that's when something shifts in his soul. Because that doesn't happen every day. Most people only pay attention to a man when he's winning. They love him for what he provides, not for who he is. But when a woman loves him before the success, when she supports him even when he's unsure of himself, when she respects his effort, not just his results, he feels that. That's not ordinary. That's powerful. Respect is oxygen for a man. When a woman speaks to him with belief instead of criticism, it lights a fire inside him. She doesn't have to fix him. She just has to see him. That's all he's really asking. See his effort, see his heart, see his struggle. Understand that even when he's quiet, he's still thinking, still trying, still carrying weight most people don't understand. And when she does that, when she shows him that he matters outside of what he produces, she becomes someone he can trust, someone he can build with. Because let me tell you, there's nothing more attractive to a man than a woman who respects his mind, honors his spirit, and values his presence. Not just when everything's good, but when he's broken, when he's confused, when he doesn't have the answers. That's when he pays attention to who's really there, who claps when no one else is watching, who speaks life into him when his confidence is shaking. That's when he falls not for her beauty, but for her loyalty, for her heart, for the fact that she sees the king in him, even when he feels like a failure. A man may not always say it out loud, but he feels the difference between someone who tolerates him and someone who cherishes him. Someone who only wants his time and someone who values his soul. And when he meets a woman who chooses to understand him instead of just demanding from him, that's where real connection begins. Because now he doesn't feel like he has to perform. He doesn't feel like he has to wear a mask. He can just be himself. And that's a feeling that brings freedom. You want to make a man feel alive? Don't just tell him what he's doing wrong. Tell him what he's doing right. Remind him that he's enough, even when he's still working on himself. Let him know that you see the man behind the armor, the man who gets tired, the man who sometimes doubts, the man who still shows up every single day. And when he knows that you see that man and still choose him, love him, and respect him, that's the moment he'll open his heart. Because at the end of the day, men don't need someone to complete them. They need someone who sees them completely. The one who doesn't fall in love with what he gives, but falls in love with who he is. That's when a man falls deep. Not because she made him feel wanted, but because she made him feel worth it. And when he feels that, that's when everything changes. Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about something that goes beyond looks, beyond charm, beyond the surface stuff that fades over time. See, if you really want to understand how a man falls in love, deep, real, lasting love, you've got to understand what speaks to his spirit. It's not perfection. It's not some highlight reel version of a relationship. It's not even about agreeing on everything. What reaches a man's heart is when a woman looks at him, sees every flaw, every shortcoming, every crack in his confidence, and still says, I believe in you. That's the kind of love that builds an unbreakable bond. Every man walks around carrying two things, his flaws and his dreams. His flaws are the mistakes he's made, the insecurities he hides, the weaknesses he doesn't want anyone to see. His dreams are the hopes he's afraid to speak out loud, the visions he's still chasing, the goals that sometimes feel too far away. He's used to people focusing on his flaws. The world reminds him of what he's not every day, but very few people take the time to listen to his dreams and still stand beside him. So when a woman does both, accepts his flaws, and believes in those quiet dreams, that woman becomes different in his eyes. A man might not say it, but he's deeply aware of the way a woman sees him. If she criticizes everything, points out every mistake, constantly compares him to someone else, he starts to shrink. He begins to close off. But if she says, I know you're not perfect, and I'm not expecting you to be. I see your effort. I see your heart. I believe in where you're going. That speaks louder than anything else. That's when she stops being just a partner and becomes his backbone. When a woman makes room for a man to be human, to fail sometimes, to be uncertain, to grow at his own pace, it creates safety. And where there's safety, there's loyalty. A man will go to war for the woman who saw something in him when he didn't see it in himself. That's a rare kind of love. That's not surface. That's soul level. And let me tell you something, when a man finds a woman who stands with him through the mess, through the confusion, through the building phase of his life, he doesn't forget that. He doesn't take that lightly. He holds on to her because she showed him what love looks like when it's real. Believing in a man doesn't mean you ignore reality. It doesn't mean you excuse bad behavior. It means you know his character. You see his potential. You speak life when the world is speaking doubt. You remind him that his past doesn't define him and that he's still capable of rising. That kind of belief becomes fuel for a man. That belief can take him places he never thought he'd reach. And when he makes it, when he starts winning, when those dreams begin to manifest, you better believe he's going to remember who clapped for him when there was nothing to clap for. A woman who accepts a man's flaws and believes in his dreams becomes his safe place. And let me tell you, men don't give that title away easily. They might entertain a lot of people, but they only build with the one who makes them feel like they're already enough. Not in some fantasy kind of way, but in a way that says, you're growing, and I'm growing with you. I'm here, not because you're perfect, but because I see your purpose. I see your purpose. That's how you create an unbreakable bond. Not through pressure, not through control, but through belief, through understanding, through staying present when it's uncomfortable. And when a man finds that, he won't let it go, because she didn't just love the man he is, she believed in the man he's becoming. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to understand something that most people completely overlook when it comes to how a man truly falls in love. It's not about grand speeches. It's not about the most perfect relationship. And it's not about having all the right answers. A man doesn't fall in love because a woman says the right things. He falls in love because of how she makes him feel. And the most powerful feeling she can give him is this. She makes him feel like a better man just by being with her. See, men live in a world that constantly challenges their worth. Every day there's pressure to be stronger, smarter, richer, faster. Pressure to win even when they're barely holding it together. But then he meets a woman who doesn't add more pressure, she gives peace. She doesn't criticize him for where he's not. She encourages him for where he's going. She doesn't remind him of his past. She inspires him toward his future. And that right there, that changes everything. Because when a man is with a woman who brings out the best in him, he starts thinking differently. He starts believing differently. He starts carrying himself differently. And not because she told him to, but because she makes him want to rise. He looks in her eyes and sees belief. He hears her words and feels strength. He's reminded that he's not just surviving, he's becoming something greater. That's the kind of feeling that no man wants to lose. It ain't about perfection. She doesn't have to have it all together. She just has to see him, not for who he pretends to be, but for who he truly is and who is capable of becoming. And when she does that, he doesn't just feel loved, he feels empowered. That's what separates her from every other woman he's ever met. Because most people try to change a man. They try to fix him, shape him, mold him into what they want. But the woman who makes him feel like a better man doesn't try to change him. She believes in his evolution. And he can feel that. When she celebrates his small wins, encourages him after his losses, stands by him when he's doubting himself, that's when she becomes irreplaceable. She doesn't have to shout it. She doesn't have to force it. It's in her presence, in her tone, in how she listens, in how she speaks into his life. She gives him the kind of energy that makes him want to do better, not just for her, but for himself. That's a rare gift. A man starts falling in love when he notices that with her he's growing. She doesn't compete with him, she compliments him. She doesn't drain him, she builds him. She doesn't remind him of his failure, she reminds him of his strength. And suddenly he finds himself dreaming again, setting goals again, thinking long-term again, because the way she treats him makes him feel worthy, not just of her, but of the life he's always wanted. You see, when a woman makes a man feel like he's becoming the best version of himself, she creates something that no looks, no status, no money could ever match. That connection goes deeper than attraction. It's about transformation. And that's why he holds on. That's why he fights for her. That's why he protects her, provides for her, loves her in ways he's never loved before. Because at the end of the day, men don't stay for words, they stay for feelings. And the strongest feeling a man can have is realizing, I'm better because of her. Not because she changed him, but because she believed in him. She made him feel strong when he was weak, wise when he was unsure, brave when he was afraid. She reminded him of